So I show up at at this guy, and I'm thinking it's going to be an easy fix, 2-3 months, and I'm back on my feet. He told me, "Where do you live now?" I said, "Houston." I said, "Are you ready to stay here for a year?" He's like, "What?"
Oh, wow.
Well, you got to move. You can't even go back. I don't know what you're doing there right now, but you can't. You have a spine infection above your initial injury. It's crawling up your spine. It can touch your spinal cord and literally kill you.
Yeah.
And, I'm 21, 22 at the time. Imagine hearing that when you're that age. A bone infection is the worst thing you can get. It's because there's no blood irrigation to cure it. So it's very difficult to treat. When I saw myself in bed, bedridden, almost dying, with IV antibiotic every 3-4 hours. They were giving me 3-4 types of antibiotic every 4 hours for 6 months. I had an IV on me at all times. I'm not going to lie. I definitely put my hands in God and I said, well, what I have to do now is walk again.
Yeah. And at this point, are you still with the mindset of PGA? Like, I'm still going to come back. I'm still going to come back strong. Or had you already let that kind of...
That's a good question.
Welcome back to Always Level Up the podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Garcia, and this is my co-host,
Tracy Ross Garcia.
And this episode is sponsored by Level Up Realty, your number one source for investment real estate. And today we have an amazing guest, retired golfer, entrepreneur, father, husband, just a great man, Joseph Naffah. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you, Carlos and Tracy, for having me. It's definitely a pleasure to be here with you guys. I'm excited that you guys gave me the opportunity to get to know me a little bit better and, to share a little bit of the story of my life with your audience. And, this project that you guys are doing is pretty exciting. And, I like motivational, settings for people. So
right on. So, we were talking a little bit about, some of the backstory. And but for those that don't know you, so who's Joseph Naffah?
Man, Joseph Naffah is just a humble kid that was born in Venezuela, South America, back in 1983. And
we were born in the same year.
Yeah. I grew up. My heritage is Lebanese blood, so I grew up in the Lebanese culture mixed with the Venezuelan one. In a small oil town in eastern Venezuela called Punta de Mata, which is close to one of the biggest oil cities back in the day, called Maturin, which is the city I was born. To make this journey a little bit shorter on my summary, I grew up there for 16 years. And I was lucky enough. I played all kind of sports growing up. Was not a good athlete growing up. I'm sure Carlos kind of knows that. But
I can't tell you.
We grew up playing baseball, soccer. You just your regular, ball games and basketball and all that good stuff. But I was lucky enough to grow up in an oil field camp. Made by the Americans back in the day and then restored by the Venezuelan main oil company, which my mom worked for. And then my dad was a contractor to the main oil company called PDVSA, which is, they pretty much own the oil in Venezuela. It's nationalized, so it's all subcontractors working for them. Mm-hmm. So my mom was the one who pretty much brought golf to my life because there was this little 9-hole golf course in the oil camp that the Americans had built back in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And, in eastern Venezuela, we had about 6 little 9-hole golf courses, which is where you could have the opportunity to learn how to play golf. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, I was introduced to golf like when I was 8-9 years old. Having played baseball and having played, soccer, golf was a little bit different, right? And, kind of started falling in love with the game when I was 9, 10, and at the same time going through middle school, high school, playing all sort of sports like little soccer, table tennis, basketball, all kind of activities.
Table tennis, a.k.a. ping pong.
Yeah, ping pong. we had a very nice group of guys that would go to the high school that was right next to the golf course. So what we would do every day is we would just, either play soccer or golf or basketball or baseball. So it was a very healthy environment to have grown
real
up.
Active, yeah.
Real active, good community, good people. And so that was kind of part of my development in the early stage of the game. By the time I was 12, I started becoming really good at golf. I took it a little bit serious. The challenge between the friendship became, more challenging, more competitive. Between my close circle, we all started playing golf at a higher level. We started playing tournament golf, which was totally different than recreational golf. And so by the time I was 12, 13, I became a scratch golfer, which is pretty much zero handicap, which means professional level in a sense, right? Wow. At that age.
12, 13 years old.
And, I was like, dang, this is young, right? But for some reason, I had a pretty decent level of maturity from a young age, and my parents could see these, and they of course started supporting me a little bit more, and
So were the golfers that you were playing with, were they older than you, or were they around the same age?
A lot of them were older. The best ones were a little bit older, a year or two. Mm-hmm. The problem is I was the youngest in my high school class always. Okay. I graduated from high school when I was 15.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
Normally people graduate there when they were 17 because we have 1 year less of high school. But, I was advanced and I was the youngest. I'm an August baby, so I was the youngest in the class. So usually they were older than me, the people who I really competed with. But they were younger or the same level in high school than me. And of course, there was an older crew, and then there was a younger crew, which we'll talk about my best friend here in a second, who plays on tour. He was younger, but he didn't grow up in the same town I did. He grew up in another oil camp 30 minutes away, and that's how we connected, because there was like a mini junior tour going around in the 6 oil camp courses where we would play 2 tournaments a month.
Oh, wow.
And then we would play local tournaments with big American companies that, they would give you price back in the day of $1,000, $500, worth of golf clubs. Very expensive stuff for being the 90s. Yeah. So they used to launch a lot of good private golf tournaments. Anyway, so, this was kind of like the story in the oil camp through golf. And then when I realized that I was good enough to really make it, watching TV, watching Tiger Woods. This was in the early 90s when Tiger was kind of flourishing. Mm-hmm. Of course, he was my inspiration. He was my idol, and, got attached and even more attached to the game, and would literally spend 10, 12 hours on the golf course every day. Wow. I would go from school, home, ate lunch, and had, either my dad, my mom, or a taxi that I had fixed with me to bring me back to the golf course from 1 p.m. all the way till dark every day, even during school days. Wow. And, I just had that in me. It was a natural instinct of just becoming,
the love for the game.
Becoming better. There was no club. There was no select. There was no obligation. Mm-hmm. There was nobody pointing that I needed to go practice except just me. I saw it as an obligation. Mm-hmm. And those 2-3 years, of course, level my game up. To the next level.
I can only imagine, man. You're practicing, 10, 12 hours a day. Like, that's a lot of time spent in.
A lot.
Did it become an obsession for you?
It was, but, it was more like a lot of people ask me that. And I honestly, sometimes I used to spend 4 hours in a putting green alone. Mm-hmm. In the putting green. You've been to putt-putt, I'm sure. I don't know if you've played golf, but, just bending there over the ball and trying to make it. And I wouldn't quit until I made 100 3-footers in a row, just stuff like that.
Real targeted skill development.
Yeah,
at that
so
age.
it was just challenging. I love the challenge of the game. It caught me.
Where did you get that discipline from? Because it takes a lot of discipline, and most young boys at that age don't have it. Their attention span is only so big. So that's really focused. So where'd you get that from?
I do have to say that my mom is very mind committed, and I think I'm similar to my mom in that sense. Both of my parents are very strong minded people. Mm-hmm. But I guess if you were to guess a natural instinct to being disciplined like that, my mom is the kind of person that puts something in her mind and she executes.
She's gonna get it.
She's gonna get it. And so I was always that kind of like targeted person where I had that mentality per se from a young age.
Yeah.
But of course, the love with the game and the and there wasn't any cell phones back in the day. I mean, I had my first cell phone when I was 13, but it was Motorola StarTAC. And I didn't have a screen. I mean, I was a gamer. I liked playing games, video games every once in a while, but that was it. Everything else was just golf.
Right.
And then from that point of 13 to 15, I competed all over the country and, became the top player in my region back in the day until 1999 that I finally decided, hey, I have to make a decision about this. And I'm an only child, okay? And at the time, I'm 15, and I'm talking to my parents where I'm going to go to college. And I always wanted to study engineering. And I wanted to study either aeronautical engineering or mechanical engineering, which are two of the hardest ones. I like astronomy. I like space. I've always had that kind of mind and very inclined to do that. And I said, well, what a better spot than the U.S.? I can get a scholarship. I can go to college and do my two passions at the same time. And then I had a good friend of mine that was here in San Antonio, and I started emailing him back when I was 15. Of course, my parents kind of let me do what I wanted, but they were not pushing me per se. Go away from us,
Leave the country, 15-year-old son.
At 15,
my
16,
only baby.
Right?
Can imagine.
So I started digging into the material to see what I needed to do, to go to school here. I had very basic knowledge of English. I mean, very, very basic. I spoke very little. I still speak very little.
Sound great to me.
Your English is great.
Started doing all the due diligence that it takes, the visa, the this, the that, the college, where am I going to go? I've never been to the States to this point. And I always told my friends, because everybody kept asking me, man, aren't you scared you're going to go to the U.S. and you haven't even been? I'm like, no, I know it's the best country in the world. And I know what I'm going to go do.
Yeah.
I'm going to go study and play on the PGA Tour. Like I had I love that. These three basic goals in mind that I saw so simple for some reason.
Yeah, simple and clear.
Simple and clear and focus on my target. And, I kept moving towards that direction all the time. And, I mean, you might want to call it a blessing from God. I've been, I'm a firm believer, Catholic, given to God. I mean, I believe in my faith. I strongly believe in God and passionate about Him. And I think He definitely gave me the inner strength that it takes, especially at that age, to be, to have the power to really commit to something like that. Because I see all these kids now at 16 years old, and I'm like, man,
you had your life figured out almost at that age.
How time flies.
Changed,
and it's not that I had it figured out. I was still a kid. I was a teenager, but I think I was just solid in thinking what I really wanted.
And I think that's important because a lot of times people don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
And that allows them to drift, and they go here or there, and they kind of drift through life. And, that's where things kind of don't work out more often than it does. As opposed to when you're applying that faith and you're like, hey, this is what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go to the U.S., I'm going to study, and I'm going to play on the PGA Tour. Like, that is as clear as it gets. And then, to actually pursue it and go and do the things that needs to be done without any doubt, like, no, this is what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go make it happen. And then actually making it happen is a true testament of applying that faith and actually turning that dream into a reality, which most people are afraid of, because that's a thought. Sounds like a thought that somebody tried to put in your mind at some point, like, hey, aren't you afraid? Like, no, I'm not afraid. This is what I'm going to do. But they only said that because they were afraid. They would be afraid if they were going to do that. And I think that's really important to recognize, because a lot of times people don't understand, like, that's the difference between somebody that becomes successful versus the person that doesn't, or the person that levels up versus the person that doesn't, right?
Exactly. I think, and nowadays more than before, than in our time, having kids now that are going through these, we see it more, and now it's more like a professional job or like at a very young age, which I not necessarily agree.
Agreed.
Yes, was I playing at a professional level from a teenage point? Yes, I was, but it wasn't something that my parents were embedding, driving me to do every day and have to do it. It was something that was within me. That fire came within me, and I believe in that more than, you create that discipline in a sense, and you expose your kids, but the whole environment that they must do it at a young age. I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, being 42 and having gone through everything I went in my life, I've learned so much through my injury and all that. It's very important to really recognize when a kid is talented, what they can do, the capabilities that they can do, and having sort of a balance.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Which
100%.
is very difficult, and we all struggle with all the time. But I don't see a balance in like these kids with the sport disciplines anymore. Like before.
It's very competitive. There's a lot out there. There's my 14-year-old right now. He's in football and he's in basketball. In his basketball team, where they pretty much play year round and they practice multiple times a week, and they got to go do this kind of training, and they got to get personal training, and it is a lot, but also like, at what point does it take the fun out of it? Where does the like you said, the balance, and why I push my kids to be student athletes, and I think it's important for us as a family, is just the value that you have as a student athlete, where you are learning the discipline, you are learning how to show up and how to be a team player, and how to. There's so many good traits and values that come out of playing sports as a kid. But you're right. It's like, at what point do parents say, okay, my kid has talent, I can nurture that talent, but but only to a certain extent, to where, it's not everything. Because again, we talked about identity a little bit earlier, where say something happens, Lord forbid, an injury, or they lose interest, or they have a bad experience, and that's not what they want to do anymore, right? And the parent is still driving them in that direction. Like after a while, the kid makes up their mind and decides, what it is for them. And then as a parent, we've got to understand, okay, when to push and when to back off. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, it's not easy. And I'm going through it right now. And my boy's about to be 11, and I'm finally going to get him a little bit more serious, because I did take my time. Everybody kept asking me, oh, is Anthony going to play golf? Is Anthony going to be as good as you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to expose him to 10 different sports like I grew up.
Yep.
But it's going to be up to him if he wants to play or not, or what he wants to play. And of course, my duty as a dad, I think, should be, having seen what I've seen in my life, should be let the kid pick what he wants to do, and support him, find the passion, because that fire needs to be there. Yeah. That's the fire you were asking me earlier. Where did you get that discipline? That was the fire in me. That was the magnetism in me that brought me here in the first place.
I think that was, you said it, it's the gift from God.
Yeah.
Right? God bless you with that gift.
Yes.
As like, hey, this is what you have, now use it. And you tapped into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It was definitely a fire moving me into this direction. I followed it. I would do it again, all over again. It's just, it was embedded in me by a higher power. And I just followed my passion, and blessed to have done it. Learned so much with it.
Right.
I mean, that's the other thing with that kind of discipline in sports comes, the teaching of failure, the teaching in success. And in golf, I don't know if you know about this, but golf, you lose 98% of the time.
Yeah.
So I literally picked a sport where you're losing all the time.
Talk about building character.
Talk about building sportsmanship. I don't know how upset it made you, but I'm sure you had to take that on the chin as much as possible.
It was hard. It was hard. It was very hard. But, to continue the journey, I make it here because a good friend that I had here growing up was here. And he told me, my dad brought me to Houston first. And then I grew up in a 30,000 people small oil town, okay? And I come to Houston, I'm like driving 45 minutes, an hour to get to a golf course and to get here and to get to HEB. I'm like, man, I don't know if I want that. Like
Yeah, it's a lot.
It seemed huge to me at the moment. So we spent a couple weeks in Houston. We had some friends there. Then we drifted towards San Antonio because my friend that told me to come here in the first place was here.
Right.
So we came and we decided to settle here. And, long story short,
Not too big, not too small.
not too big. I love San Antonio from the get-go. I thought it was, it had that small town vibe and great people. I could see it right away. This was in 2000, April of 2000. And fell in love with the town and, played a couple of junior events, finished second and third in my first two events here. And by the second event, I was already recruited by UTSA. And that's how my journey started. And so I played with UTSA the first year.
Would you say that would be your first level up there?
That was definitely my first level up. I mean, I lost my first tournament to the best junior guy in town at the time by one stroke. Played in Brackenridge, I remember.
Okay.
And I think I shot 66, 65, which is almost 11 under par, 12 under par the first 2 days. And that's when the coach went you're playing for me. And so that was definitely my level up. Just coming here like that, and the first month and a half, you almost win a tournament in a different country where the best golfers in the world are, was pretty cool. So that, I would say, that was my first step closer.
Right.
And honestly, I never, the junior events and stuff like that never caught my attention playing on the PGA Tour. It was something that I was rewarded at the time. I remember just thinking about it, but I wasn't the kid that was passionate about going to the South American tournaments,
right,
or even the national events at home. I rarely played many big events at home because I left at such a young age. Because, like I said, my needle was pointing here, and I wanted to play on the PGA Tour because no Venezuelan had done it.
Everything else was a stepping stone to get there.
Everything else was just a stepping stone.
Right.
And so I saw it as a rehearsal. I didn't see it as the greatest junior tournament. Or
it was getting your reps in.
Of course, it was satisfactory at the time, amazing. I won multiple events like that, and that was great, but it was not the main goal.
It wasn't the goal.
It wasn't the objective. And so, played for UTSA the first year, kind of struggled a little bit because I didn't have a car. And I told my dad when he dropped me off at 16, he dropped me off, on Wurzbach and Vance Jackson at an apartment there where my friend was living at the time. And then, I was lucky enough to have met what I call my parents here in San Antonio are two Lebanese couple that own a pizza joint right here on Vance Jackson and Wurzbach called Maria's Pizza. And it's right there by St. Matthew's Church. And that's where I lived. And I would take the Via bus to UTSA every day. I started the summer at SAC, but then I transitioned into UTSA. I did a year of English. And then, I got recruited, and that's when I started playing. But it wasn't until 10 months that I told my dad to get me a car because I told him that I had to earn it. I didn't want a car. What was in my mind? I thought that I came to New York City where I could take the train everywhere, right?
So I know how the Americans do it.
I know.
The Via is much different than the subways in New York City.
And we'll come back to Via in a second because that's also part of my entrepreneur career. But what's funny is that, here's 16-year-old, 17-year-old Joseph, going in Via bus all over town with his golf clubs, slacks, okay?
You didn't quite fit in on the Via bus.
And people looking at me like, what is this kid doing?
Who is this guy? He's definitely not from around here.
I just did not understand it, but I have a clear memory of just people looking at me weird, like I was a weirdo, right? Going to San Pedro driving range.
I'm sure you were looking at them like they were weirdos too. I had to ride the Via a few times in my day.
So to continue the path, I did my year at UTSA, and I kind of struggled with my golf game a little bit because I do have to say that because I didn't have a car, I didn't practice as much, so I kind of lost my game a little bit. And then my mentor moved to Houston 6 months after I came here, and so I just needed help to revamp the game. So I said, you know what? I I don't care about UTSA. I can go to Houston. I can play in a college there, but I want to train with you. I want to, move there and be there for 1 year and prepare again because, again,
PGA.
my goal was the PGA. I didn't care about college. Most people are the scholarship, the this, the that. No, that was not my objective.
Right.
My objective was to play the game at the highest level, and I knew what I needed to do. So I moved to Houston, and, that's my best friend, Jonathan Vegas, who plays on tour. He was already there. He came a year after me. And, we kind of did a training camp there with my coach, Francie, who moved to Houston at the time. And we would work together 12, 14 hours every day. I mean, whether it was at the gym, whether it was chipping, playing, and in every aspect of the game.
Familiar territory right there.
Familiar territory. And so we kind of egged on each other, helped each other. And, of course, I was dipping at my worst level, and he was entering his best level. And we hadn't seen each other in a couple of years since Venezuela. So we were kind of egging each other on.
Now you're competing
now
against him.
we were competing against each other. But, of course, he was already at a higher level. And, I got lucky to have walked on a team in San Jacinto Junior College, and I played probably my best golf in collegiate golf that year. And I have to attribute it to the amount of intense practice that we had those 12 months with my mentor there, and dedication, and, with my best friend, hand-to-hand practicing almost every day. So that stage passes. I went to nationals, almost finished. I finished second regional champion, and in the regional championship. Then we took the team to nationals for the first time in like 40 years.
Oh, wow.
Almost finished All-American. So I was definitely trending in the right direction again. And then this is where the tricky part happens, is I met Sam. I had already known Sam, my wife, Samantha. She's from here. We met at our Lebanese Catholic church, St. George, right here on Babcock. And, I decided they had offered me a scholarship at Abilene Christian. And I went and visited Abilene Christian. And we drove 8 hours from Houston. I remember just seeing, like, the Starbucks, dirt roads on the side. And, this is back in 2003. And I'm like, and my friend Jonathan went with me because he was a friend of mine.
Did that remind you of the oil field back
Well, yeah. And so we get there, and my daddy's there, and everybody's there, and they offer me a full ride. And I'm like, we eat lunch
this
with
doesn't really look like
kind of like the city.
And so I decided not to be away from San Antonio, which I honestly consider home, and Houston, where I had already my 3-year family integrated, to go away to a smaller town. And so far, I mean, it's 6 hours away, where I had nobody. And so I said, you know what? I'll walk on another team in San Antonio. I'll give it a shot. I started making some phone calls. They gave me a chance at St. Mary's University and made the team and played for St. Mary's for a year. And that's when I got hurt. So that was definitely a hard stop in my career. That's where the injury part happens, right? And so we all kind of parted ways. My friend Jonathan goes to UT, which by the time he came, I already knew better on the college level where you really needed to go. So I also advise him that UT was the place to be too, because, I wish I knew a little bit better when I came. But 3 years into it, I already knew where you really needed to go at that level, right? And so I got hurt. I started, my back started, I had a really hard injury in my back that, started, I would say, back in 2002. I was fit, slim, fast, in probably my best shape of my life. And then, my lower back started hurting, went to see a couple of doctors, just the normal thing that you do. Nothing, pills, this, rest, ice, heat, just the normal stuff. And it never got better. It just kept getting worse. And in college, you have to carry your bag. So it was definitely limiting me from carrying my bag and playing at the same time, especially 6 times a week. And the more I did it, the more aggravated I got. And so in 2003 is when I decided to stop, because I needed to assess the situation. went to see multiple doctors here in Houston, in Dallas. They all advised surgery. It happens to be that I had a slip bone and I didn't know. It could have been genetically. I could have been born with it and it displays with time and wear and tear. Nobody knows.
Right.
But the reality of the matter is that I kept postponing the surgery because, 19, I'm in the best shape in my life. I'm in the best golfing shape in my life. And you can't execute your job is definitely demoralizing, right? Especially with, at such a young age.
Yeah, and that's what brought you here, right? That was your dream.
Yeah, so that was definitely what I call the sudden stop in my career, because then I started experimenting with the doctors and what am I going to do and what's the plan. And of course, my game took a toll and everything started falling. And, at the same time, I have my girlfriend here, now my wife supporting me. And of course, always my parents supporting me and stuff, even though they were still in Venezuela back in the day. But I had my family here already that really supported me and helped me go through it. But at the same time, that was the fire in me never shut down, and I kept looking for a solution so that I can continue my path. And, I finally decided to have surgery. I had the surgery scheduled in Dallas with one of the best surgeons at the time, recommended by the PT I was using here. And I go and see him, and, he tells me, you need a single-level fusion, which is a simple procedure now that I know these, right? But at the time, it seemed very scary, right? They got to cut you. They got to take a sample from your hip. They put a cage in the disc, and in 6 months, you're playing again. So I'm like, well, this sounds like it is what I have to do. Before then, I had already had like 3 or 4 injections, steroids, and all that, and nothing helped. So I decided to opt for the surgery. It was, I would say, when was this? 2003, December. My grandma, the one that raised me, my dad's mom, passes away in Venezuela. And so I go that December because I would go in the summer and in December. This is back when things were still okay. Easy flight from Houston, 4 hours, I was home. So I decided to go home for my, say bye to my grandma who raised me. I had a doctor there too that I was seeing in my hometown, a spine doctor, because I had a doctor there and I had a doctor here just in case.
Yeah.
And, I said, look, in the States, they told me to do this exam. It consists of some injection. He had already injected me before. I was fearless. I didn't, I didn't care. I would do anything I put in my mind. And so I went ahead and did the procedure with him, got unlucky in the surgery room, and got infected. Came back here, didn't know that I got infected, of course, until 6 weeks later I was falling. This was later. I'm sorry, I said 2003. This was in 2005. 2005, I was already like, the injections happened. I got infected. I was doing my internship already in Houston for my job, which I didn't tell you about my professional career. I ended up studying business and IT because that's the only thing that they allowed me to study. They didn't want me to study any engineering career because of the labs.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Well, a lot of work in the afternoons, and I didn't have the time. And so I was in Houston at the time when I got infected. Then I came here because I was doing my internship with Baker Hughes in Houston. 4 weeks later, I get up from bed and I fall. Couldn't even get up. That's how I determined that I was infected. They took me to the ER. The doctors in the ER said, this guy has to go home. He needs 24/7 care. He's by himself here. So, decided to fly back home however I could. Then my parents took me there to a surgeon in Caracas, Venezuela, which is the capital. And got very lucky that I saw like a great spine surgeon after everything that had happened to me. Unfortunately, I was already super damaged when he saw me. I learned after studying everything that a bone infection is the worst thing you can get. It's because there's no blood irrigation to cure it, so it's very difficult to treat. So I show up at this guy, and I'm thinking it's going to be an easy fix, 2-3 months, and I'm back on my feet. He told me, "Where do you live now?" I said, "Houston." I said, "Are you ready to stay here for a year?" He's like, "What?"
Oh, wow.
Well, you got to move. You can't even go back. I don't know what you're doing there right now, but you can't, you have a spine infection above your initial injury. It's crawling up your spine. It can touch your spinal cord and literally kill you.
Yeah.
And, I'm 21, 22 at the time. Imagine hearing that when you're that age. So I started talking with my dad, of course, we got all sad and stuff, but then, reality check. We got to come up with a solution and the professionals are the one who you trust. And I trusted this guy and started the treatment and, 3 months bedridden, pretty much.
And at this point, are you still with the mindset of PGA, like I'm still going to come back, I'm still going to come back strong, or had you already let that kind of?
That's a good question. My thoughts of the PGA started deteriorating with the aggravation of the spine and being limited and seeing my game deteriorate in the last year before I got to this point. But the thought of PGA never left.
Gotcha.
Right? It was always there. And it wasn't me. It was going to be my best friend, Jonathan Vegas. Like, we had this force. We had this energy going towards the target. And, but when I saw myself in bed, like, bedridden, almost dying, with IV antibiotic every 3-4 hours, they were giving me 3-4 types of antibiotic every 4 hours for 6 months. I had an IV on me at all times. I'm not going to lie. I definitely put my hands in God and I said, well, what I have to do now is walk again.
Yeah.
Like I don't,
I was going to say, at some point, did you ever feel like God let you down or anything like that? Or did you just keep your faith strong?
No, I kept my faith strong.
Good.
I never, honestly, I did, I'm not going to say I didn't question why it happened. I did. I think it's something normal we all do. Especially when you're that deep. And
you're that young, too.
And you're that young. But, I was lucky enough that, I installed myself in the house I grew up with my grandparents, with my aunt that was a doctor. And I said, nobody touches me but you for the next 3 months. And I think it was the peace and the believing God being at my grandparents' home that gave me the strength. And, of course, the support of my community at home and, all the Lebanese community at home. It was definitely a tragic thing that happened to me. So they were all very supportive. And my family never left me. And I think that's what definitely between God and my family and being in that spot gave me that belief to keep going. And, thank God I surfaced. And once I surfaced 9 months after, I went back to the doctor who healed me, after this treatment. And he told me, look, I'm not going to do anything to you. Your spine is severely damaged right now. I'm glad you're walking. I'm glad you're alive. Let's not talk surgery for another year because I don't want to touch you.
Yeah.
I don't want to, anytime you're infected in the bone, they don't want to relieve that that bacteria by any, it stays dormant.
Right.
They kill it, but it stays dormant. So if they touch it and cut and blood or whatever, it can come back. So he said, let's give you a year. I'm skipping a bunch of procedures that I actually did in the meantime. He injected me with ozone. There were so many things that were done. I was on heavy pills for a long time, heavy narcotics, I didn't even drink at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't drink alcohol. I was very healthy, and then bombarded with all these pills and heavy antibiotics and everything. Definitely was harsh.
Yeah.
But once I kind of cleaned myself up for that year, I made a promise to God that if I ever got back healthy enough, and if I ever had the opportunity, I would play competitive golf again. But I do remember saying to my parents, when he cleared me in Caracas, when he told me, you're not infected anymore, I had a moment of realization, started crying and told them, I think my career is over. That was the first moment that I actually felt that I lost grasp of my career. And, of course, after going through hell and back with everything that happened, it's normal to think that way. Then I came back. Then I started working with, I decided to stay back home for a while. still dating Samantha. So I would go and come and back every month, 1 month here, 1 month in Venezuela for like 3 years. We did the long distance thing for 3 years while I was there working in the oil industry with my dad. And so, of course, golf was out of the equation. I had already stopped. And that's where my entrepreneur career kind of starts. You know, I had to pass the page and say, well, since golf is dormant now,
what else is there?
What am I going to do? You know, it's 2006 at the time. My friend Jonathan still had 2 more years in college, you know, and the fire was still there, and I was supporting him. You know, we would touch base and see how you're doing, but he still had a year and a half in college left, so professional golf was not in the thing. But, you know, I remember seeing him one time, and I told him, you know, if I didn't make it, you're going to make it.
Yeah. Like one of us from Venezuela is going to...
One of us has to make it, I told him. You know, I'm not going to let this happen because I didn't want to see it die.
Yeah.
And so that's where my support towards him came. And, you know, I was lucky enough and blessed to have made good money back home during that time. And, you know, he was right out of college, and he had an American dad then. And I used to come and see him. He was playing the second tier of the PGA Tour at the time. He went to Q school and all that stuff. I found him a sponsorship with our company to help him through his professional career because his sponsor here was kind of running out of money. And then I said, look, I told you that we're going to continue in this path together, and one of us is going to make it. So don't forget about money. You know, I'll find you the money. You continue your path. You know,
and I think that is so awesome, because what I'm hearing here too is there could have been jealousy, there could have been ego, there could have been anger, but you chose none of those, and you still continue to choose to support because it was something bigger than you.
Totally.
Right? It was bigger than you.
Totally.
That's
totally
awesome.
Bigger than, I would say, both of us. You know, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it is a beautiful story. I think that people need to hear it because it's a good point that you're making. You know, I could have been, I don't want to help this guy. You know, he was my competition or whatever, but there was that fire in me that chose the opposite.
Yeah.
Because of course we loved each other. We were buddies. We had the same objective, and you know, having a good heart. That's where I guess my Christian side comes. Yeah. And you know, to continue the story, I decided to after, you know, this is 2-3 years not touching a golf club. It was 2008, 2009 when I finally decided to get married because Samantha was giving me grief.
Yeah, she's like, okay, enough this back and forth.
We've been doing this thing for a while.
Well, you go, Samantha.
The other thing is, you know, I realized that I wanted to have kids. I said, you know, there is definitely something bigger than us here. And I almost died. And, you know, I'm back on my feet. I lived it up a little bit for a couple of years, 2-3 years. It's time to kind of settle and get serious with a family because that was the first thing coming to my mind. You know, I need to have kids. I'm an only child. I need to continue the family, give this gift to my parents that gave their life for me.
Yeah.
You know, the least I can do is just continue the family and all that. And so, of course, I found the love of my life. We got married in 2010. You know, and that's where our family journey began. In between 2008, 2009, when I was an entrepreneur home, I started my own trucking company that I would move. We have a company that has drilling fluids back home. Okay, my dad was a contractor with like a 600-employee big corporation that bought an American entity back in the day in Venezuela. So he was very successful man. Gave me the chance, him and his partner, to help him do one department of the company that was malfunctioning. And I said, look, why don't you give me a chance to run it? I'll run the trucks and I'll run these. And that way y'all forget about these and continue doing your business. And that way I can start my own company. So that was an idea that I had at a very young age and, you know, started it. And I had no idea what a truck was or changing a tire or doing the maintenance on trucks and stuff, a big 18-wheelers. So I bought my first one, I bought my second one, I bought the third one, then I started subcontracting the other one, and all of a sudden I had 10, 15 trucks moving the minerals and the mud from the oil rigs to the plant and vice versa. So the drilling fluid company that we have back home, what we do is pretty much recycle the mud from the oil drilling process that comes from the subsoil with all the chemicals that are injected in the ground. That soil needs to come back out, and it needs to be cleaned up and put in a proper space without impacting the environment. And so I was in charge pretty much of moving all the minerals, the rocks, the fluids, all the chemical materials that are required for the whole process.
Yeah.
So that was fascinating. I did that for like 4 years. Made good money with it. Venezuela was still flourishing, even though it was entering communism. There was still money. It was still during the golden era of oil. Oil was high, so there was an oil boom going on at the time.
And this is 09.
This is between 06 when I moved back and 09. At the time, Samantha is running the company with her dad here in town. It's a uniform company called Ameriform. She's still in school doing her master's in business at St. Mary's. We both graduated from St. Mary's University.
You went and finished got your degree.
Yeah, I got my degree in business.
That.
Yeah, definitely. I finished my degree. I guess I skipped that part. Yeah.
Well, it's important. I'm big on education.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Education was a priority in my family. Right. My grandpa who raised me, my dad's dad, promised me that I had to come here and get a degree because he knew how passionate I was about the sport. He said, you have to get your education.
Right.
And so I made that promise to the family, and I did it. I could have gone professional at 16, 17 if I really wanted to.
Well, I think that because you did that mentally, it gives you that mental muscle and endurance to manage yourself and other responsibilities beyond playing sports.
Exactly.
Right. So it just opens up those doors because you just think different. Right. Now you're having that education, you have that knowledge, and because you actually got business education, you were able to step into that opportunity that you saw with the trucking company to be able to run that.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, it's funny because these business things, to me, I grew up in a business family. It was second nature, and I didn't even know it that I had that talent. Right? It was so embedded in me. That to me,
natural.
To me, it was like a natural thing. I mean, my grandpa came from Lebanon in the 40s, 50s, and to sell clothes and shoes, and I would help him at these stores, and then he grew this massive store in the small town and became super popular and made his money, and so did my dad, and then he transitioned into the oil industry and so forth. But it's generational.
Yeah.
Embedded in my DNA.
Right. So combine that with some education.
Yeah, and it could be lethal, right? It could be good if you really put the focus and the energy towards that, with a little bit of channeling the focus and discipline. You are eventually bound to being successful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And if you fail, you get up and continue.
Exactly.
So that most people fail one time or two times and they stop.
Right.
I have failed so many times in my young life. I still fail, and I get up and continue.
Right on.
And I think you saw that in my personality from when you met me.
Absolutely.
I have that in me, even though it's like the retired joking Joseph all the time.
I love it. Like, hey, you don't want to challenge me. You will lose.
I have that gear in me. It's something that it's embedded in me, and I think it's great. And I hope that my kids learn that from me without me having to teach them that, because it's natural. I feel like most things now are like synthetically taught and not organic. And I think there has to be a fire in you, organic. You have your uniqueness. He has his uniqueness. I have mine. And I think every individual has that gift from God in a sense. We just have to dig deep enough to find it.
Yeah.
And see what we're made of, right? And so going back to '09, when my father-in-law passes, he passed away kind of all of a sudden at a young age, 62, and then my mother-in-law was the director of dorms in St. Mary's at the time, and Sam is running the company with her dad, and so I was still in Venezuela on Plan B, right, running my oil gig and helping my dad, right. And so this was kind of like Plan D for me, even tapping into buying the company from my mother-in-law, Ameriform. And I told my wife, I saw them struggling the first 3 months as far as she's not the business person type.
Yeah.
She's not going to run the company. Sam is young. What is she going to do? We're about to get married. And I said, you know what? At the time, I was thinking of moving Samantha to Venezuela because things were doing so well.
Yeah.
I even set up an apartment and everything. We were ready to go home, get married, and go over there. But then when things were starting to get really, really rough, those 6 months, I told my parents, I said, you know what? I can't do this to Samantha. I gotta go back to the States because kidnapping, bodyguards. I was not gonna put my wife in a compound and having her go with bodyguards to the supermarket or stuff like that. So it was during the tough time in Venezuela. So I decided, I told Sam, I'll talk to your mom. I'll buy the business. We'll run it together. It'll be our Plan D while I'm doing this here. And so that's what happened. I ended up investing in the company. I bought the company. She kept running the show. I started learning about it. It was, Ameriform is a wholesale clothing company, which was my Plan D. Now it's my Plan A.
That's what I do.
But, it's funny how things work.
Yeah.
I think I've kind of tapped over a few level ups in my life here.
Absolutely. That's
I'm skipping
a lot of growth, and not just the growth, setbacks, and just moving forward and just kind of adjusting and adapting to the environment that you were in.
Yeah. And so, what's funny is it's 2010. I have quit golf for 4 or 5 years then, and I'm still not touching a club.
Wow.
By then, my friend Jonathan made it on tour. Of course, I went with him to his graduation. I usually go with him 4, 5, 6 times a year to see him on tour and all that stuff.
PGA Tour.
PGA Tour, yes.
Boom.
So he played.
He made it.
He made it. So
we made it.
So he plays the Corn Ferry Tour, which is the AAA, of the PGA Tour, for about a year, and then he makes it into the tour in 2010. Literally, I want to say, he's been on tour 15 years now. So the year I get married, and I'm still not playing golf. I still remember we didn't even play golf for my bachelor party or anything. Golf was completely gone. I put it dormant. I said, this is it. I'm not playing anymore. And here's Jonathan, like, he knows I'm physically not capable to play, right? But, all my friends wanted me to play again. The problem with me is I never associated golf with just playing. I always associated golf with a goal.
Yeah.
Right? And so why am I going to play?
It wasn't a hobby. It was a passion, right?
It was. I did not see it like that, right? And so that was the difficult part about coming back to the game. Jonathan wins his first year on tour in 2011 in January. I get to witness him win on the PGA Tour on his 5th start. And, I mean, that was just...
That is awesome.
Unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Not
only did he make it on the tour,
he wins on his 5th start. I mean, that is... Very few people have done these. And just,
the first Venezuelan to do it.
First Venezuelan to do it. And, I'm there with him. I mean, it was such a dream for both of us. Vivid memory, and beautiful story to share together and everything. And he kind of re-inspired me there. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Just that he won, I said, you know what? I gotta start playing again.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Right. And I don't know how good I'm gonna be anymore or what I'm gonna do, but I think I can play. So, those 2-3 years after he's on tour, and his career follows and everything. I get married, we start having kids and all this stuff, and we're running the business together. The journey continues. I'm a businessman now, but I get to travel and see my friend play on tour, which was kind of, in a sense, satisfying my need of the PGA Tour, and
Yeah.
I didn't have to play.
And you didn't have to-
Right? That's what I tell everybody. Like, you know, I got to see the beauty of both worlds, and I don't have to play. But, you know, in 2012, I remember, 2012, this was when my first daughter, Sophia, was born. I decided to join the club here, and I started to play a little bit more. Said, you know what? I'm going to start playing again. Just hobby golf, recreational, and see how it goes. I sucked. I mean, I don't remember having to relearn something so hard ever. Like golf is difficult by nature. It's difficult when you're really good at it, and it's always difficult. And you can ask the best player in the world this right now, and he will tell you, and he's winning everything. But it's still a difficult, challenging sport. And so I just started learning again and started sucking and eating it up and being mad because I sucked, because I didn't suck, right? But took it one step at a time. But then I found my PT, my physical therapist, who kind of revamped my body to the point where I said, well, if I make my body feel somewhat normal again, and my chronic pain goes away, or compress it, or suppress the chronic pain, I will give it a shot. Like I can, if I get my body somewhat decent to play, I will do it. You know, I had no issue just coming back to the game if that was the case, right? So I meet my PT back in the day in this, by coincidence actually, because of a cousin of my wife. He takes me there, said, give this guy a chance, because he worked with me when I used to kick in professional football. And so we were like, I told him, George, you know, I've already seen 40 guys, man. Like I'm a dead case. Like my body is just a broken machine. Like I have no solution. Like, I mean, I already went through the surgery. I did skip the surgery part, which is pretty important thing to mention though, because they did end up doing a triple fusion on my body. I lost bone space. I lost 2 inches of my height. I mean, it was just complete reconstruction of my lumbar spine. Very delicate stuff.
That's tough.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't wish it upon anybody. It's really hard. That's why when I see, like, all these older people like that, I feel it for them, because it's difficult. I mean, I was somewhat, in a sense, to have faced it at a young age, which helped me to recover.
Yeah.
But when you're 60, 70 and you're facing this, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Your body's not the same. Anyway, so I find this PT, Jorge, and he looks at me, and I remember taking my mom, because she was coming back from Lebanon, and she had sciatica, and I took her there. And he sees me standing next to my mom while he has her on the table working with her. And he says, what's wrong with you? And I said, man, you don't want to know what's wrong with me. He started laughing and said, I can fix you. I'm like, no, you can't. He said, I can fix you. Just give me a year. I'm like, what is this guy thinking? Like, he just saw me, like, twisted, like, leaning on my side like this, and he already knows what I have. Said, are you sure? Said, I'll give you a year. So we shake hands. The next week, I was CrossFitting with him.
Wow.
Okay, at 5 a.m., which Carlos always gives me griefs about these, because I don't do the 5 a.m. anymore. But we did 5 a.m. for 20 weeks at the CrossFit box. And I was seeing him 3-4 times a week, because he saw what I had, he evaluated me, and he started retraining and reprogramming pretty much my brain, my nervous system again, to adapt and to make it strong to surpass my injury, which was extremely interesting to me at the time. This is in 2012. A lot of things in the physical world have changed. You know, before, when I was rehabbing in college, it was steam, heat, cold, massage, a little bit of
advanced in medicine.
now is functional training and crossing the body and different planes and moving. They don't want you sitting. They want you, like, active. Just so many different things have developed and changed to the better. So, you know, Jorge definitely showed me that side of the coin, which I had never seen. And that's an important page in my life, because I started feeling like healthy again for the first time in a decade,
That's
almost,
amazing.
of being hurt.
Right.
And so, by 6 months, I'm already in the best shape of my life, CrossFitting 5-6 times a week, training serious with this guy, seeing him 3
New
times a week.
mindset, I'm sure. Like,
My chip switch. That chip again. That's another level up moment for me. I mean, I remember running in those 5 a.m. classes and just saying, "Man, I'm running again."
Yeah.
I could barely walk. I could barely stand. I'm running 2-3 miles. I'm doing the Murph. I'm doing pull-ups. This guy had me deadlifting, doing pull-ups. I didn't even pick up myself once. I couldn't even clean. I couldn't even when he showed me the stuff with the bar, I'm like, "You're crazy. I have a bad back." And so he started teaching me and retraining my patterns and proper technique,
Right.
proper coaching.
Lightweight, just
just going through the motion, movement and stuff. And then, leveling up each week, I would go little by little, step by step, which is the main mistake we all make, right? We always want to jump step, which is
nobody wants to be a beginner.
Nobody wants to be a beginner, but it takes it takes a stairs, right? You want to go one step at a time. And so he kind of gave me that fire again. I'm not gonna lie. And then for those 6 months to a year, I got in the best shape of my life again. I'm
Like 20-year-old
felt
me.
young again, didn't
I'm
you?
almost 30. I have at the time one baby, and going to the second baby. Samantha was pregnant with Anthony, and I'm like, it's 2013. I'm like 2013, 2014. My golf game is getting a little bit better again. I started playing more and more and more, and of course, the physicality allowed me to practice a little bit more, and so that's when the spark ignited
You're
again.
like, I'm not such a bad golfer anymore.
Spark ignited and relit the fire.
And well, I still remember the eyes of Sam when I told her that I was gonna play again. Like, serious. She looks at me like, "Really, dude? Only you can do this." Like, what happened?
Well, I feel better.
But I made a commitment. I made a commitment to God. It's a private thing. I normally don't say this, but I did make a promise that if He gave me the chance to play again, I will. And that was kind of a pact I had with Him. And at the time, kind of the stars lined up between Jonathan's inspiration and my other best friend Gustavo, who was in Nicaragua at the time. They both pushed me to make myself a challenge of a time frame, because they knew I'm 30. How much more do I have? I already lost so much competitive ground. I didn't compete serious for 7-8 years. That's a chunk of time.
Yeah.
Especially with all these new kids coming up now. I mean, it's almost a decade. Everybody has improved so much. But I made myself, with my team, my family, my coaches, and Jonathan. I said, look, I'm gonna give myself 3 years. 3 years is enough to know if I'm gonna be good enough.
Yeah.
If I'm not, where I'm at, reassess, and I'm gonna, because I have to do it full time.
Yeah.
This is nothing. This is not something you can do part time.
Yeah.
It has to be
commitment,
full commitment. And so that's when that phase of my life, the re-journey started. And from 2014 to 2018, I was pretty much again in the golf train, practicing every day, going through amateur golf again, playing the local tournaments, missing the cuts, playing like crap, failing and failing and failing, and learning the process again, relearning that, rewiring my brain to just accept, get up,
this is part
and
of it.
Continue.
Yeah.
Accept, get up, and continue. Trust in the process, continue working. You'll see the fruits later. And so I did it, and I put all my might into it. I'm not going to say that it was easy. It was probably one of the most difficult things I've done, just having to accept that I wasn't the same guy, and reface myself and retrain myself into this new me, which so many people helped me out.
Transformation right here.
It was big time transformation, and especially after really honestly hanging the gloves. I had already hung the gloves back, after the surgery. Like I was, golf is out of the equation, right? But I think that the beautiful facet of this part, in my looking back at it now, is that even though I was not the same me, I found a new me that was even cooler because, it's pretty cool looking back at it, right? Not many people can say they did something like that.
You've overcome all these things.
And
this is the comeback story right here, baby.
This is the comeback story. And so I play what we call mini tours here in the region, and then we have of course to make it to the PGA Tour you have to play different levels, and it had become so difficult by now. It wasn't like before. Before you would go to Q school and just make it, which was super difficult, but now they started filtering and layering, and now you have AAA, AA, and stuff like that. So it's the Korn Ferry, and then PGA Latin America, and PGA Canada, which is kind of part of the PGA Tour program. Now they have PGA University, so you can actually earn a spot today if you're the best university player in the U.S., which is pretty fascinating. I wish that existed back in the day. Yeah. So started doing all those stuff and of course sucking and playing bad and playing decent and playing okay, but going through the motions. First year and a half. Then the game kind of started kicking back in again and started playing a little bit better. Was very happy to have the opportunity to have played 14 events in PGA Latin America, which I did well. In a sense, because I did decent. I didn't make a cut there, but I did decent in a few events, and played 4 Q schools, and decided to continue to play for another year or two, and never got my official card, but my friend Jonathan gave me the chance the last 6 months of the process to play a match against his brother for a spot for the World Cup. Okay, and I was already thinking on retiring because I told him my time has come. I promise you all 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm almost 35, and this is my last year doing it because I got to go back to my family.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was fair at this point that I continued the path for another 5 years. And I wanted to be with my kids.
Yeah.
Different age kicked in. Family kicked in, and then it wasn't just
your priorities
20
shift a little bit.
20-year-old Joseph wanting to do it all, right? So went and did this match in Houston, and I ended up winning and made it for the World Cup, which is a PGA Tour co-sanctioned event, and both of us played together, and it was of course the tournament of our lives. Like for me, like just being together playing an event
side by side, with your
side by side, and I knew that was it. I said, what?
It's a nice little way to wrap it up. But 3 years of like, you made it, you did it.
I gave myself that trophy. Like I was like, I think this is a cool time to stop.
Yeah.
And so that was the end of my professional journey. This was almost 7 years ago now, and of course I'm very involved with him. Like I'm still involved in professional golf, but playing wise, I decided to wrap it there because I thought that was just a cool spot. I definitely felt the gratitude from God to even give me a chance to play again.
Right.
Learned so much about the physical aspect, the mental aspect, the spiritual aspect of myself through those many obstacles and hiccups and failures that I had. And I think I somewhat took it in a very positive way.
Right.
But it was very hard.
Yeah.
And,
even throughout the, this entire journey that you shared with us, I mean, there's so many, and we talk about this a lot on the podcast, is like our own ability to not just fail forward, but to make decisions, right? The decision-making part is so hard. You're faced with all these choices. Which doctor do I go to? What kind of treatment do I get? Do I still play? Do I not? Do I start this business? Do I change schools? Do I go to Abilene? All these different choices, and each one of those choices could have been a turning point and could have led you somewhere else. But I think, and you share it like it was more simple, but I'm sure at the time when you're trying to make these decisions, it's a little bit difficult. But one thing that I can see that allowed you to easily make these choices and these decisions that led you to where you are today and to achieve the success that you achieved were the fact that you were able to slim things up, like narrow things down. Like, okay, golf is out of the question right now. Let me focus on my business. And that allowed you the ability to build a business quick and strong and successful. Okay, let me say, okay, yes, I am going to entertain golf again. Now that opens up different doors. So now you can choose within that, I don't want to live in a country town. I want to live in a city, and those, and I'm trying to share with our audience that being able to say what feels aligned to the end goal allows you to make choices and decisions that are just more authentic to who you are and to get you to where you want to go. So I think, I heard that throughout your story so many times, and our ability to make choices, our ability to choose a decision that's in alignment with what we want out of life is just so crucial, so important to success.
And on top of that, what I heard was consistently were commitments.
Yeah.
Commitments that were made. And, I see it time and time again. People struggle with making commitments.
Yeah.
From the commitment to your golfing game, to the commitment to your education, the commitment to your relationships, the commitment to your business, there's all these types of commitments along the journey that you were able to say, I'm doing this, I'm going all in, and I'm going to focus. And that right there has led you through different chapters of success. And although they all come at a price and you had to go through things, but that's part of the journey. Like, you have to do these things and you have to expect failure, because without the failure, you don't get better. Without the failure, you don't grow. You don't level up, right? That's the part of the journey that people miss because of fear. And being fearless and saying, okay, whatever it takes, whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to commit all in. We're doing this. All right, I'm going to commit all in. I'm going to go through the pain and the challenges of recovery and therapy, because it's an opportunity for me to live my passion and get to where I want to experience this success. And, hey, I gave myself 3 years. I got to a good point. Cool. I'm done. Yeah. Next level. Family. Let me pour into my family. And this is a big part of it, because people don't understand, like, at the end of the day, all we have is our family, and those are the ones that are by our side, through the thick and thin, to support us, to lift us up, and to actually go with us through the suffering wherever we're at, and we're able to do the same for them. So I think all those decisions and those commitments that you made were in alignment with not only your spirituality, but with your character and who you are and what's allowed you to grow to that next level. So, I always want to point those things out to the audience, because when you don't understand that part, it doesn't allow you keep hitting those walls.
Yeah. And you quit.
Yeah. And then you feel hopeless, and all the negative emotions that come with it, and you feel like a victim. In reality, it's just it's an opportunity to ignite the spirit, to get that passion and fire going, to push through, persevere, endure and persevere, and then get to a level to where, I made it to this point in my life that all the work had a purpose, and I think that's really great in the story. So
yeah, and it's what I can tell to the audience is, of course, I'm tapping into simple points of the whole journey, but it is important to stay focused on the goal or the objective, whatever it is that you're doing. Just guiding yourself towards that and moving that energy towards that point. The problem that we all have is never setting that goal clear. Yeah. Okay? It's so difficult to set that goal clear. And even today, like I have that, going on in my life now. Like sometimes it's like, with my fitness goals, like, but yeah, we are 42. We're not 20 anymore. We are going to drink. We are going to do like
our bodies change. We're just trying to stay mobile.
We're not
this
20
point.
anymore. I mean, but I always like challenging myself in that regard because I think it always keeps you engaged. And the moment you're not engaged, you're like bouncing all over the place. It's so easy to bounce, no matter who you are. Even the most successful people, and I've been lucky enough to meet many of them. Like if you're not channeling that energy towards an objective, it's so easy to get demoralized and lost that, that's the difference between the people who make it and the people who don't.
Yeah.
And, I want to see that like in my kids.
Yeah.
I want to teach them that. It's so important and it's so not talked about.
Yeah.
And it's so more simple than you think, but it's just committing yourself to it and doing the right things will definitely get you there. Nobody's special. We just put it clear and put, like hard work towards the objective. You're going to get there.
Yep.
Where is going to be that there? Only you know, and destiny. Nobody knows. I mean, the sky is the limit. You just keep pushing and pushing, and you'll find, like that. This revamping of my career at this later, like, taught me so much. Like, even if I failed, and even if I didn't make it through Q school, and even if I didn't get my card, I think what I did taught me so much about my character that, I know that with my mental strength, that if I put myself towards an objective, I can accomplish it.
Absolutely.
And that sense of security in yourself is amazing.
Yeah.
There's nobody else that can teach you that. But you have to go through thick and thin to actually find out who you really are.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's part of growing up, and it's part of, digging deep in yourself and finding who you really are. Not towards your couple or not towards whatever is, the creature that God made is within you, and only you will find who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those
So
are
true.
some words of wisdom right there.
Like mic drop. It's just it's been such a powerful story that you've shared, and the setbacks, and those are just all reminders again. And I heard it time and time again throughout the story too, was just like our response to what happens to us, right? Like things are going to happen to you, right? No matter what journey you're on, no matter what goal you're chasing, there's going to be roadblocks, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be failure upon failure. Our response to how we handle those things is going to say a lot to how far we get, right? You said wherever there is for you is, again, the response that you have to whatever that challenge, whatever that, and just like you said too, at the end of the day, I thought this was a great place to stop and say, okay, you know what? I've accomplished it. And why push it anymore, right? But again, I'm going to respond in that way because, no one wants any more injuries. No one wants any, and my family's calling me, right? And I've done what I can, and I've enjoyed it. And it's a great place to, put a period and put a bow on there and say, that chapter of my life was a great chapter. And what's next, right? What's next? So I think that's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that, a lot of personal, but just a lot of ways that we can all learn, a lot of something that we could bring to our own journeys to get us to, that next level.
Right on. So as we wrap it up here, we like to end with a little word of advice to the younger Joseph, right? To your son, to anyone that's watching, that's on this journey of life and wherever they're at. Maybe it's golf, maybe it's sports, maybe it's education, or they don't know where they're going. What's the best advice you can give to that younger version of yourself?
Well, first and foremost, faith. Faith is big. Anchoring yourself to your faith, to your belief is important. Family, second. Always have a support system, that are next to you no matter what. And then third, I would say, purpose and objective. Having a clear picture of where you want to go, what you want to accomplish, because without those three things, like I was mentioning earlier, it's so easy to get sidetracked, especially in this world that we live in right now, 2025, where you have so many distractions, so easy and so accessible.
Yeah.
All these kids have some stuff that we never even did. And it's so easy to get sidetracked. And so having the discipline to apply those three to your daily life will definitely make you a better human being, will definitely make you a person of faith, will definitely get you to whatever it is that you want to do in life, whether it's, educational, business, sports, and I always see it as an anchor. And if you're not anchored to an objective, you're not going to get to the final destination.
Right.
And I think that most kids right now are not anchored to an objective. They need to be anchored to an objective also because they want it.
Yeah.
Not because they're being enforced to do it. And that's a huge challenge too.
Right.
And, no matter what, if you dream big, you can accomplish it doing the right things. But it needs to come from you.
Yeah. Dream your own dream. Live it up.
Boom.
That's right.
I love that. That's perfect. Perfect way to end. And, man, we appreciate you for joining us and sharing the story. Such an amazing story. And, once, when we spoke about it earlier, I was like, man, I couldn't wait. I was excited because a lot of things I didn't know. And I was like, man, this is going to be awesome. So you did not disappoint. That's for sure.
Yes, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Carlos. It's been great sharing my story, with you guys. And I definitely wish you luck in this podcast that's, bringing some gifts to life from you guys, and it's pretty cool to have been here with you guys.
Amen. Thank you. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, or is there anything you want to give a plug in, your company, anything that you want to leave with?
So I'm executing my plan D right now, which is a marathon.
Anybody need some uniforms, need some wholesale clothing? My man's got you.
It's my uniform company. I do all kind of industrial workwear and sports and everything, and we carry over 300 brands that we sell, and we pretty much do all the add-ons and everything in-house. And little story about Via, we do have the Via contract in town.
Nice.
So going back to Via, they have over 2,000 employees that we now service, and we've had that contract for a long time.
That's awesome.
But it's funny because I always see these employees, and I know the routes from back in the day, and they're all like, how do you know this route?
We love a full circle moment, right? You're like, hey, you're one of our biggest contracts now.
But, thank you for the support, and thanks for everything.
All right, right on. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.